The Carolina Hurricanes took care of business in the Big Apple against the New York Rangers last night, winning 6-1. We talk about that game as well as some local news around the team, as well as looking ahead to next game in this episode of Locked On Hurricanes.
Your Locked On Hurricanes, your daily podcast on the Carolina Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey there, Caniacs. I'm your host, Jared Ellis, and you're listening to Locked On Hurricanes on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And as always, thank you for making Locked On Hurricanes your first listen of this Thursday evening. And today's episode is brought to you by the lovely folks over at FanDuel. Make every moment more right now with FanDuel. New customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/locked on to get started today. Now, last night was big for the Hurricanes. They really took care of business against the Rangers, like I said, winning 6-1. And they're starting the year off right, getting a big statement win against a team like the Rangers heading into that game. And obviously, still now, the Rangers are on top of the Metro Division. Obviously, the Hurricanes in second, and definitely, the Hurricanes. With that game, they really showed like, hey, it's still our division, guys. You ain't the kings of the division yet. So, now the Hurricanes sitting at 21-13-4 with 46 points. Rangers ahead of them at 25-10-1 and 51 points. So, yeah, big win for the Hurricanes. Like I said, 6-1. Andrei Svechnikov scored twice in that game. That's his fifth straight multi-point game as well. You also had other guys having multi-point games. Brady Shea had 3 assists. Jack Drury had a goal and assist. Sebastian Aho, he had 1 assist in that game, and he now has 12 points in his last 4 games. So the guys, they're firing on all cylinders. I say a lot on this show that they when they play the full 60 minutes, when they play as a team, where everyone's doing their part, you get games like this right here where they take care of business and they show why they were preseason Stanley Cup favorites. And with that game, Pyotr Kochekov also had 28 saves. Power play was on point. It went 2 for 4. PK went 3 of 3. And in this game, like I said, when they play as a team where it's everyone chipping in, you have games like that. They had 12 different players register points in that game. And like I said, when they play as a team, I cannot stress that enough. I know I'm sounding like a broken record here right at the beginning of the episode, but I'm driving that point home. Like we see what they're capable of, and I really hope that they can continue this momentum that they've been building, from the end of 2023 now into 2024. If they can keep that momentum going, that is going to be extremely beneficial for them. We had talked a lot about how the Hurricanes goaltending a lot this season hadn't been great. And, Pyotr Kochekov, he, like I said, looked really good last night, having 28 saves in his last 9 games, 6-1-2, .934 save percentage, looking really, really good. What we expected from him. And I think, part of that is, obviously he's able to do his job better, which is great. But the team out in front of him is doing their job better. And I think again, you're having everyone on the same page. Everyone's doing the right thing, and that is going to be key for them to maintain for the most part, going into the rest of the season, not now having won 4 straight. That is fantastic for them, and I really, really hope it continues. And, you know, because one thing, that we talked a lot when they're having that really rough patch was top guys needing to step up. And Andrei Svechnikov and Sebastian Aho have 24 points combined in the last 5 games alone. Your 2 top guys, your 2 faces of the franchise are playing like the 2 faces of the franchise. And I think that is something that is starting to carry over into the rest of the team. And everyone is, like I said, in that game, they had 12 different guys register points, which is great. And I think that it starts at the top with these top guys. They're doing their thing, and it's starting to spread throughout the team. Everyone's getting on the same page because that was an issue for the team earlier in the season where they were just struggling to get on the same page. We heard it a lot, from Brind'amour, from Stahl, and others, where guys weren't buying in and they needed to go look in the mirror. It feels like we have gotten past whatever that was. Obviously, we aren't going to know what was going on, if it was locker room issues or whatever. That's just not something we're gonna know about, and that's fine. I honestly probably rather not know. But I think, you're having your guys do what they need to be doing, and that is, really showing out on the ice. It seems really simple, but, again, quite often it feels like, with the team, it's very simple things where you flip that switch. Oh, what do you know? You know? Oh, we played the full 60 minutes as a team and everyone else on the same page. We beat the number one team in the division 6-1. You know? It's very simple. And or at least for us, to sit here and talk about, obviously, we're not the ones actually out there on the ice playing. But, the other day, when we were talking about our 2024 predictions, I forget who it was, said, hoping, Aho could get, 100-point season. And, I looked earlier today, as of right now on ESPN, he's projected to finish with 93 points in 76 games played. So, kind of right there, with 32 goals and 60 assists is what he's projected to finish at, with ESPN. So, right there, he very well could get to that point and hit that mark, which, like I said the other day, that would be a great feather for him to be able to put in his cap, having, the first 100-point season for the Hurricanes since Eric Stahl back in, what was it, '06? Yeah, when they won the cup. Yeah, that'd be fantastic for him to be able to do, and if they're able to keep this momentum going, I think, absolutely. I looked at Svech as well, just because of, what they've got, the chemistry him and Aho have going on right now. He's projected, to finish at 50 points in 50 games played. So per game pace, for him, 17 goals, 32 assists. Again, he didn't play nearly as much as Sebastian Aho, so he's not going to have as high of a total. But point per game, that's I ain't gonna complain about that. I ain't gonna complain about that one bit. And yeah, obviously, that's just projections. Of course, anything can happen. They can finish higher, they can finish lower. Who knows? That's just something we gotta wait and see what happens. But I really am pleased, with this game against the Rangers. They did what we've been saying they need to do. You know, And the fact that the power play, was cooking as well when, so often that it's been a weak spot of this team. We talked about it the other day. It is top 10 in the NHL right now, which is fantastic. Actually, I believe it may have been top 5. But you look at all that, man. They really have the makings of a team that can make a deep run. If they're able to consistently play at that level that they did in that Rangers game, throughout the rest of the season. Obviously, you ain't gonna win every game. We all know that. There's gonna be some stinker games, when we're here, when we're sitting here, frustrated and yelling at the clouds, about, oh, they did this, they didn't do that. This guy looked bad, that guy looked even worse. Obviously, we're gonna have more of those games, but just as a whole, if they can keep the momentum and well, not necessarily keep the momentum, but just play at this level for the most part down the stretch, man. It could be a real dangerous team come playoff time. Obviously, you got to worry about injuries and stuff like that. You never know what can happen. But and if they are able to keep up this momentum and this level of play, it does make you wonder what will they do at the deadline. That was another thing we talked about the other day with the 2024 predictions. Will they make moves? I mean, they're going to make moves regardless, I think. But if they can play at this level consistently, up to the trade deadline, do they make a move they would have made a month ago? You know? Do they go after, a certain name they would have when they were in that rough patch? Do they do that? That'll be interesting to see. I think it's way, way too early to be diving into, oh, should they get this guy? Should they get that guy? This guy moves, here so we can get him. And I think it's way, way too early to be, speculating on all that because, who knows what could possibly happen there. But overall, I am very pleased with that game against the Rangers. They looked like the Hurricanes we expect them to look like. Rangers definitely didn't look like the Rangers we expected. But I'm not going to complain either. Because again, the Hurricanes are playing at the level we know they're capable of, and that is extremely promising heading into the new year. And I can't wait for us to be able to watch that at the Hurricanes' new restaurant. And we will be diving into that right after this quick break, folks. Now, folks, it's almost at the halfway point of the season, folks. Can you believe it? I sure as heck can't. This season is flying by, Canes fans. So make a statement about your team's performance, highs and lows, regardless of where we are in the current standings. I want to remind you that you could be winning big and making those big statements by playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official daily fantasy hockey app of the Locked On NHL Network. Sleeper is our number one choice for daily fantasy sports and especially daily fantasy hockey, because with Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in a daily fantasy hockey contest. You could, the opportunities are actually endless there, folks. You could bet on any of your favorite Canes players. You could bet on any of your favorite Coyotes players or Ducks players or whoever. And not only can you bet on your favorite NHL team and players, you can also do so for the NFL, the MLB, the NBA, and college football, all on Sleepers. All you have to do is pick whether studs, like Sebastian Aho or Andrei Svechnikov, they're on hot streaks right now, will record more or less than their sleeper projections for things like goals, assists, saves, plus minuses, and more in any given game. To win 100 times bet on Sleeper, you need to correctly predict the outcome of 8 player stats. You heard me, Canes fans. You can win 100 times your money by playing daily fantasy hockey with Sleeper. So start paying attention and nail your picks so you can start winning big. Use promo code Locked On NHL, and you'll get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's code Locked On NHL, LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details and locational availability. Now, this isn't necessarily like new news. Kind of been talked about for a little bit, but it was made official yesterday. The Carolina Hurricanes have officially bought Backyard Bistro. Obviously, if you are a Canes fan, you have probably heard of Backyard Bistro. That is, of course, the restaurant across the street from a PNC Arena. A lot of hurricane stuff in there in general, a lot of NC State stuff. If you are, a longtime resident of Eastern North Carolina, you will also remember the Carolina Railhawks. There's even Railhawks stuff in there. So it's a great sports bar environment. That is where they host the Canes Corner radio shows. I've been to a few of those. Met Svetch, Natchez, Justin Williams. It's all really really fun. Good environment, good food. And it was talked about a while ago that the Hurricanes were interested in buying it, and it was looking like it was going to be a done deal, but was made official yesterday that they did buy Backyard Bistro. And this is going to be really fun for the Hurricanes. It's kind of something we talked about for a while of them kind of expanding their reach and whatnot. And it was said, with the arena renovations, it was also going to lead to development of the surrounding area as well. So, the Hurricanes having a restaurant that they own, I think, is going to be a really cool focal point of that area as it continues to develop. And obviously, now with sports betting being legal in North Carolina, the Tom Dunham was really adamant about wanting to open up his own sports book. And there is going to be one going in there, if I remember correctly. And I think, again, like I said, this is something that I think is really going to benefit the Hurricanes, and and just the community as a whole as well. I think that obviously the restaurant will get probably some updates and whatnot. It'll be interesting to see what the restaurant ends up looking like for sure. Um, and I do think that opens the door for the Hurricanes to continue to have, things under their umbrella that aren't inside PNC Arena. And speaking of, we're talking about Backyard Bistro and Kane's Corner. They just announced the next one earlier today. On It'll be January 10th. It'll be Steph Nazen doing that. So obviously, if you can go out to that, go out and do that. That's going to be something that'll be really fun. Obviously, Backyard Bistro, like I said, real focal point, for the Hurricanes. All the things they do there. They for like the last 15, 16 years. And I think it's going to be, like I said, really fun. Um, Obviously, like I said, there's going to be, some updates probably coming. Well, they're going to be because, like I said, it's been speculated that they want a sports book to go in there. I think that'll be really fun. And it's going to be, I think it's really going to be a selling point for potential businesses and stuff like that when they're trying to attract folks to build and open up businesses in that area and be like, hey, one thing I'd said before would be the Hurricanes opening up a separate team store location that in isn't the one in PNC Arena. Say they build you know a mixed use area thing, kind of like North Hills or something like that. If you're in Raleigh, they build something like that, and the Hurricanes, you'd be like, hey, we're obviously, I know they won't be like in charge of the construction or anything like that. Be like, hey, we'll put a team store location in this area, in this building, and just to again help develop that area up. I think it's going to be a really good thing. And obviously, you love that, the restaurants, they're going to stay right there. Like I said, it'll probably get some updates and maybe some remodels and stuff like that. It's just kind of something to expect when anything, goes under new ownership, any sort of business, whether it be a store, restaurant, whatever, under new ownership, you can kind of expect maybe there will be a few changes like that. Um, but it's going to be really, it, I think it really opens up the possibilities, for what the Hurricanes are able to do, in terms of growing their brand in Raleigh. Obviously, of course, they're really well known. Everyone here knows them. But I think, they're really kinda getting ahead of the game a little bit of, having some of these, other things that aren't just inside PNC Arena. Like, oh, they have their restaurant, and, obviously that could potentially, because it's, not gonna be well, obviously, it'll still be a locally owned thing, but, something with a bit more financial backing, than the old owners. Not saying they didn't. They had the restaurant for 15 freaking years, Um, you know, oh, maybe they can open up a second backyard bistro location, in another part of Raleigh or something like that. Again, just continue to, like I said, expand their brand and around the city. Like I said, other team stores. Um, I think I think that is really something we can expect with them making this business move, is them having other things that just aren't inside PNC Arena. I think that's a pretty safe bet to make. Obviously, they've done their stuff with R&D Brewing as well here in Raleigh, as well. So yeah, it's there's a lot of. I think this is going to be fun to watch with that area getting developed. I'm really excited to see what it's going to look like. Um, again, with them wanting to put a sports book in there. That'll be really interesting. I don't think they'll do. I definitely think they're gonna do some remodeling, but I don't think they'll do a whole lot. I think they'll probably kind of want to keep that, local sports bar, kind of vibe and whatnot. I think that's probably what they'll still do, but we're just gonna have to wait and see. This is stuff that just became official yesterday, so we'll just see what they end up deciding to do, in terms of the look of the restaurant. But I'm excited to see how it goes down. But we now are looking ahead to the next Hurricanes game. That is, of course, against the Washington Capitals, and we will do a quick look ahead to that right after this quick break, folks. Now, folks, the NFL season is wrapping up, and there is still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. And the app is super easy to use, and there are a whole bunch of different ways to bet, whether it be on live same game parlays, find bets in the new Explore tab, make a parlay in the Parlay Hub, the best way to find popular parlays, and much, much more. And of course, you don't just have football, you also have NHL going on right now, NBA. Before we know it, baseball is going to be back as well. So there's a whole bunch of stuff for you on there. So visit fanduel.com/locked on and make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Now, looking ahead to the next Hurricanes game, we're obviously going to do a full preview on this game later. But just looking ahead, for the Hurricanes, like I said, they've currently won 4 straight games for the team. Well, obviously for the team, they've won 4 straight, and I think you're looking ahead, to that game against the Caps. Yeah, tomorrow. I got my days mixed up there for a second. But this is going to be an interesting game to watch. Yeah, the Capitals won the last game in shootout back in the middle of December. Obviously, a lot of folks were upset with that game. With Washington's strategy in overtime of just kind of how they're hanging back and basically forcing a shootout. It'll be interesting to see how the Hurricanes handle that in this game. Obviously, they're not going to go out, drop the gloves immediately or anything like that. But we're in DC for this game, so it'll be interesting. Obviously, going to be a very hostile crowd. These teams don't like each other still, and it's going to be interesting. And I think that the Hurricanes are obviously in a much better place now than they were in that last meeting. Again, I can't stress it enough just how good Sebastian Aho and Andrei Svechnikov have been. Like I said earlier, 24 points combined in the last 5 games, and keeping that momentum, going into this next game. I think that is going to be a real key piece of what of how to come away with a win. Honestly, it's really just going to be keep doing what you've been doing. We're obviously going to go more in depth in this tomorrow, of course. But you look ahead, to this game. It's gonna be a fun game for sure, because the Hurricanes are really hitting their stride. The Hurricanes are really kind of outmatching the Capitals in just about every category. Yeah, penalty kills a little bit closer, but they absolutely murder them on power play. Hurricanes ranked 5th in the league, Capitals 27th, and you know it has the potential to almost be a trap game with just the momentum behind the Hurricanes right now and just how the Capitals are kind of like on that on the decline. I mean, they're not, the worst team in the world, obviously. They're 18, 12, and 6 right now. But they aren't the Capitals, that kind of ran the Metro alongside Pittsburgh for so long. They're not the heavyweight that they once were, is what I'm saying. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this goes. Like I said, you look at the last game for the Hurt between these two teams, how Washington handled that overtime strategy. It's going to be if it'll be interesting to see the emotion in this game. I think that's the big thing for me of just how that's going to carry over. If at all, honestly, because again, it was a while ago. It was December 17th. The guys, they got on their win streak and then they had Christmas and New Year's. So they're obviously probably going to be in a much better place mentally as well. But that was a frustrating last game between these two teams, and I'm very interested to see how that shakes out in terms of what we're going to see tomorrow night. But we will do a full in-depth preview of that game tomorrow. I'm really looking forward to that, of course. But the Hurricanes, just looking ahead, like I said, they have the Capitals tomorrow. They have the Blues on the 6th, Ducks on the 11th, Pens on the 13th, and then so on and so forth. But it's going to be a very interesting game to watch. So make sure you guys are listening to that preview tomorrow. Make sure you're following along on social media at LO_Hurricanes, myself at Jared Ellis _96. And go subscribe on YouTube. And let me know in the comments on YouTube and on social media, what menu item do you want the Hurricanes to add when they really are able to get in there with Backyard Bistro and, make any changes they may end up making? What menu item do you want them to add? Let me know on that. I'm really interested to see that. And I will talk to you guys in the next episode, folks. As always, let's go Canes.